Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the SSA Roundup, the show where me, Drew, also known for manager of WRG, and Olympic, who's my other host, off to my right here, right there, who's a player for Espionage, I do believe.
That is correct.
Hello, Olympic. How are you doing?
I'm good, Drew. How are you?
I'm alright, man. It's pretty chill. First episode of the podcast. A little bit nervous, but hopefully we can get some viewers and
100%.
we can get some facts going and make sure everyone knows what's going on inside of the SSA region.
Yeah, got a lot to talk about and got a lot to discuss.
Yeah, very true, very true. So we should probably start off where the last season ended. So Bravado won 2 out of the 3 regionals. Wild card happened. SSA teams went 1-3 and 0-3. It is what it is. We move on. Off season. It's massive thing in all regions, of course. But of course, SSA had a lot of change during the entire off season, including yourself, who found a new home from MTG to Espionage, my former org. Very inspirational. Like, could you speak to what was happening with tryouts and everything like that?
Well, with the end of last season, everyone knew that ATK was breaking up. Everyone knew that Skulk and Archeon weren't happy with their team, basically. And with Skulk not playing anymore, Archeon looking for a better teammate, it led to a lot of roster shuffles. I think the biggest one is To Die For going from Bravado to the Orlando Pirates team. May contain nuts, as you know them now, To Die For Snowy Darth. That has caused a lot of like, ripples. I can't get the word now. A lot of ripples, yeah. It's just caused a lot of teams to be a little bit more cautious of, because before you knew Bravado and Pirates were the top 2 teams, and now they've basically just made one big super team, and it's very hard to try and break that team.
Yeah, I feel like that team is considered a super team within the region. Definitely beatable by any means, but
100%.
That massive To Die For roster wasn't even known for that long before it was confirmed. Everyone figured it out quite early. There was a couple of leaks going around, and it was on the cards from the end of Wildcard to eventually when it was announced. But by that point, I think everyone had realised, because they were scrimming, they were doing everything. Their replays were on public, so a couple of people got it from that. It is mental, but like, as you spoke to about Archeon, he tried out with a lot of teams. He was trying out Friction, he was trying out Keno, but eventually he found his way to Mr. Low and Skill Steal.
Yeah. Very good roster there with Mr. Low, Skill Steal, Archeon. I believe that is a top 4 team at the moment. They didn't quite show that in this first main event. And another big thing I have to bring up is the old Bravado roster, Happy Meal and Cams, skipping out on Skill Steal and looking at Alicum, where it turned a lot of heads, and a lot of people were like, why wouldn't you pick up Skill Steal? One of the best players in the country at the moment, not mechanically, but just game sense wise, and going on someone who's a little bit more with less experience, hasn't been tested as much as some of the other players that they could have tried out in Alicum, and it really worked out for them, hey, making a top 2 appearance in the first main event.
Yeah, Skill Steal, a great facilitator by his own means, but like him, I felt brought something different to the table that Bravado had to replace. David, the mechanical genius, they had to find a replacement. I don't think Skill Steal was going to do that. They did turn a lot of heads with the pickup of Eliakim, but it didn't shock me. towards the end of the season, Digital Devils finished third in one of the regionals, I do believe. I wasn't too surprised by it, but I did think they were going to go for skill still.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, I might say something a little controversial here, but Orlando Pirates is a very good team at the moment, but it all depends on if Happy Meal is playing like we know Happy Meal can. If he's not playing to his ability, and if he's having one of his off days, Orlando Pirates could go from second to even fourth, fifth, or sixth. That's how important Happy Meal's playstyle and Happy Meal's position on this roster is for this Orlando Pirates team.
The thing is, I can't even say Happy Meal's a third man, but his positioning and his awareness on the field rivals literally anyone in this community. I would argue he is one of the best players with game sense in this region. Of not that many that have good game sense. Most people rely on their mechanics.
Yeah,
he has to be on it if Orlando Pirates want to keep potentially getting second or even potentially winning a regional. He has to be on it from second one when that clock counts down from 3, 2, 1 on that kickoff.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. But one of the bigger stories was, this is very biased from me, but WRG picking up a untried team. Of course, they were on Espionage with me. They were going to represent us, but then obviously that didn't work out. We, Casper, Friction, and Keno, or Keno, I should say.
Well, when I first heard the news of this team, on paper it looks like a very strong team, but a very like a dark horse. If you saw this team in the off season, Keno, great player mechanically, Casper, great player with his accolades, with his games. He's just a really strong player. And Friction, probably the most consistent player on that roster. You'd see them and be like, oh yeah, that's a good team, but I don't know, hey. But after their VS Gaming performance that I got to watch against Orient Aces and spending the weekend with them at Comic-Con, the dedication, the mindset that all three of these players have to be top 2 or even top in the country is second to none. And even though they may have not shown their full potential in the first main event, they are still a very strong candidate for that top 4, top 2, and even to take games off of McIntyre Nuts and make it a close series. So I believe by the end of the season that they will be a consistent top 3, top 2 team.
Yeah, they literally showed how much they've been grinding in the top 16 qualifier, where they went top seed, but main event wasn't to be. It is what it is. Cohen, really, really good mechanically. We Casper, really good in a 1v1 situation, and Friction, very, very consistent, as you spoke to. But, of course, we're now going to move on, because there is an org which we all thought was done for a while in Rocket League. ATK, choosing to stick with Werty Willu, surprisingly. He was trying out for a lot of other teams, but then also getting an EU player to fly over, the old coach of ATK, Gaizao.
Yeah. There's a lot of question marks around this ATK team, picking up the players that they have done. I think sticking with Werty may be a blessing or may be a curse. It just depends if he can keep up with the speed of the scene. Me personally, I don't believe he will be good enough come season end. There's a lot more talent, a lot more dedication from other players that I feel like they're better than him mechanically, better than him situationally, and better than him game sense wise. But it all comes down to how each players work together, and these 3 players so far have been working really well. Just facilitating Willu and picking up Willu to start off with this ATK team has been a very good pickup. I feel like with Panda leaving, he is now the best Reunion Islands player in the scene, and he has shown that time and time again in top 16 invitational, in main event. And with Gaizao, this new untested, unrecognized EU player coming in and showing that he is not just some ranked player, not just some EU guy looking to farm wins. He is a person who is here to stay. And yes, they may have gotten unlucky going out from 5th to 8th, losing to Reformed 4-0. But that team is a very good team. I'm just very hesitant on how they are going to do come season end.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Losing to Reformed is nothing to scoff at, even if it is a sweep. They are a ridiculous team, and I feel like that's where we are in SSA. There's a couple of really, really good teams. But I think the massive... I don't know how I would say this, but the massive, clown in the room is Guizhou having to leave after the first split, is what I have been told from an inside source. I don't know how reliable this source is, but...
Rumors at the moment.
He might potentially not be here, therefore meaning they have to play with Galaxy. Galaxy, obviously a very good player, has his flaws with some of his views, but of course some of the better mechanical players can help teams work well and gel together. But I don't think Galaxy will be enough to carry them to that top 4. I think unless they pick someone up, they will just sit at a top 8 team, and I don't think that's what ATK wants.
I feel like Galaxy is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he is not tested in the RLCS scene. He doesn't have that experience, he doesn't have that mindset that I know of. And best bet for ATK after this first split is look for someone who can fill guys out shoes, look for someone who is reliable, look for someone who is an anchor. And you have players like that. You have everyone on that Apex roster. You have Sweaty Clarence, who we are going to talk about in a bit, putting on some powerful performances in this first main event. You have got Snoozy, a young player who can grow, one of the brightest prodigies in the scene at the moment. You've got a lot more players that I feel like would fit that ATK roster than Galaxy. Just if they want to be able to keep up with the competition, be able to be that top 4 team that I know they can be.
But yeah, you quickly spoke about Apex there. We're now going to quickly move on to them because we can't talk too much about every other team. But Apex, with keeping Lackstar, they were going to take Digital Devils after... who was it? After Eliakim left. But then they kicked Zero to pick up Defunct. Maybe a little bit of an L, in my opinion.
That Apex team on paper looks fantastic. You have Lackstar, one of the most consistent players in the game. You've got Original, one of the most consistent players in the game. And Defunct. All 3 of these players look insane. But after seeing how they performed, after versing them in scrims and even in RLCS, they don't look like a team that has the cohesion. And I know Shadowhunter is working hard to fix that and to make them a top 4 team that we know they can be. But that is the Apex way. Even you saw it last season. They had Christian W playing with them and they nearly got their best placings to date. And a week after they did that, they dropped him for Panda. And now they've done it the exact same way. They had Lackstar, Original, and Zero that were going to be the original Apex team, and dropping Zero for Defunct. And Zero now making top 4 with Sweaty Clarence and Ram. I feel like it really did bite them in the ass there, and it's just... I don't know what Apex is going to do to fix this. Even having power issues, having... Load shedding is a problem, but it has been a problem for long enough now that you have to be able to sort it out.
Yeah, I think Apex have done what every team tried to do last season, but haven't really done this season. They tried to stick plasters at the last second. You can't try and stick plasters with a Rocket League roster. They look like a team of individuals at the moment, but hopefully that can improve. But you touched on Zero going to MTG and reaching top 4. Unbelievable performance from MTG. Let me just start off with
100%.
that. 100%. Top 4 in the region for stats was Sweaty Clarence. Unbelievable. We've known about Sweaty for a long time, haven't we, Olympic?
Yeah. Sweaty, first start of last season, him, Specs, and myself, we actually made top 8 on Exotic Esports, and since then I know that Sweaty has been a good enough player to keep up with the scene. Back then he was on a console, now on a PC. Everyone was looking at MTG like, I don't know, no one was mentioning MTG for a top 6 or plus, and they've come out here and just basically taken everyone's opinion and thrown it in the garbage, making top 4 with Zero, who people don't believe in him, Sweaty being untested, Ram not being the best that people think he is, and this team just works together insanely well. and I'm super excited to see how they perform come week's time.
Unbelievable performance from them. I'm hoping they can keep it up. Obviously not against my team, if I can help it, but it is what it is. They looked amazing. Zero obviously dealt with his load shedding problems and went over to Bread's house. Sweaty, amazing performance, as I've already touched on. And Ram, getting his best placement in RLCS so far.
100%.
So then, one of the weird teams that I would call... This may come off in the wrong way, but the Unwanteds. Of course, a lot of people will know who I'm talking about there. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but the bro community Olympic. It seems like I saw Yopego trying out for most teams, 5BS trying out for most teams, and I didn't really see Christian try out, but I think he just fitted in with his team and they just went for it. Of course, it's a massive risk, and so far it has not paid off. But what can you speak to this? Because the bros didn't obviously reach top 8, and I don't know why.
I know I'd spoken to their manager, Falcon, about things, and I spoke to him in person, and he didn't actually know that Defunct was trying out for teams while it was still Defunct and Yopego looking for players. So they really had to try and find players to join Yopego and make a team just to make main event. And I don't know. Christian W, we know he can be good on his day, and we know he has got that grind mentality. He's got that mindset that he wants to be the best in the country and that he wants to be up there. But 5BS, I don't know. His mindset really just doesn't sound like, he wants to do well, but it doesn't sound like he wants to be the best. Like, his mindset really affects him a lot. Even if he loses a game, he will be finished. Or the way he even takes tryouts, like he tried out for Espionage and he was taking the piss out of the tryout the whole time. So I don't know what they've managed to do with that team, but I just hope that they figured it out for this week's closed qualifiers and next week's main event, if they do make it through.
Yeah, of course. Like, there was a lot of that I heard from the off season. There was a couple of telltale signs from Sweaty when he was telling me that he was a week out from teaming with Defunct and Yopego. So that would have been a really crazy roster. But of course it didn't happen, and now they're with Bro Community. But you did speak about Espionage, and of course this is probably more your place to speak because you are the captain of Team Espionage. I used to be on this org, so I can't really speak. But this is going to be the last team we go through with transfers because we can talk about everyone. We'll be here for hours and hours on end. So Team Espionage, what did you do during the off-season?
So come off-season, I had actually spoken with Friction, and from my point of view, I thought we were going to go into it as a duo, looking as a third. Unfortunately, that fell through, and he joined WRG. No hard feelings there, whatever. Cool. He's, like, all respect for them. And then I actually spoke to one of my close friends, Siphon. You may have seen Siphon. Played with him last season with Erratic, doing a bit underwhelming performances, getting fucked over by load shedding or power issues.
Yeah.
And speaking to him and just seeing how hard he's been grinding the game in the off season, him and I decided to go into this looking for a third. And for the longest time, we had been trying Wulu for around 2 or 3 weeks, and we had very good playstyle with him, very good scrims with him. And unfortunately, that shiny 80k contract basically swayed him towards another team. And then we managed to talk to Boy, another Union Island player. And from the get-go, the vibes were there. The vibes, the team play, the animosity, it all just clicked. And I felt like us three as a roster were insane. And we have been showing that. We showed that in top 16, we showed that in scrims. And we had to actually find a sub for main event because Siphon wasn't home for that weekend, wasn't available. And we managed to pick up Bellum. And Bellum played a pivotal role in helping us get that top 8. I feel like he was the super sub. Yes, you had Scepter. Yes, you had Galaxy. Yes, you had Lucid. You've had Hamburger. You've had all these people playing. But to come in and he only played 1 or 2 scrims with us before main event. To come in, to have such little practice with a team, and make top 8 against some of the best teams in the country, basically getting revenge on bro. Game 5, they beat us like what, 8-2, 8-3 in top 16, and in Game 5, not even letting them score a single goal against us, and showing that he is a top player. And I really hope that teams are looking towards Bellum now as a player to pick up. But I just feel like Siphon, Boy, and I, we are doing 2 to 3 scrims a night. We've got great chemistry. Sandwich is there helping us, and I just feel like with another format, groups or double Elim, we can maybe push for that top 6, or even get an upset on a team like ATK, MTG, WRG even, if I cross my fingers hard enough.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, of course, it's a massive pickup for you guys, and we are going to jump over a topic here. We will circle back around, but of course, we're going to jump to the main event, which is probably the main talking point of this podcast. Of course, massive expectations for everyone. WRG coming in as first seed, massive expectation on their shoulders, and then they had to play with a sub due to an unfortunate event which Friction had to attend. Espionage playing with their sub, reaching top 8, but then couldn't push further because they were playing against arguably the best team in the region. It is what it is, but of course one of the main talking points will be how many substitutes were that was used. That there were ridiculous amounts of substitutes being used. Hopefully this can get fixed at some point, because we need to see the strongest teams out on the field performing and everything like that. But I do want to touch on teams that might potentially be underperforming.
And overperforming.
Yes, and overperforming. That is very, very true. Is there any teams, before I run off, that you think are underperforming?
I can't say Apex, just because they had that disconnect in Game 5, but I do not feel as if Apex should be going to round 5. They with the roster that they have now, they should be a round 4 team, round 3 team. And also the bros with Yopega, who got like a top 3, I think, last season. Christian W, I think, got like a top 6, and 5BS getting consistent top 8s. Not finishing in that 9th to 10th area. Also underperforming there, but hopefully they can pick it up. Maybe they had a bad day. But yeah, those 2 teams are, or that one team, I would say, is the underperformer. Apex, you can't really excuse them. Well, you can excuse them, actually, just unlucky power situations.
Yeah, players do need to sort this out. There was no excuse for why Apex had to go out. Just charge your inverter. I'm not going to say who it was, but charge your inverter next time. But one of the bigger ones, or one of the smaller teams that I think underperformed to a massive degree, was Astronic Esports. Of course, no one's really heard of any of the players, but Strutic used to be on Barney and his Dinosaurs, Sweaty's Children. He's a good player. Snoozy, young gun. He's next up, really, really good player. Was the sub for Nibble in VS Gaming, and was going to be the sub for Nibble this season if they decided to stick together. Didn't come to fruition. And of course, Just Specs. Previous top 8, long time ago. But he's been grinding. He's a really, really good player. They get results in scrims. And I've talked to their coach. Their coach is a really, really good guy and a really, really good coach. I thought they should have potentially... They could have made top 8. But I don't think it was going to happen this time. But it really does speak virtues of how much they're underperforming when they're getting reverse swept by Fish.
That to me, is an insane result there. Fish being Joshua, Golden Engine, Motti. I believe that Fish is in the bottom half of the top 16. I expected them to finish 16th, 15th, 13th, or 14th, but taking games off of beating Unity, beating Astronic in a reverse sweep. Astronic really... you'd have to kind of chalk it up to versing WLG first round, versing Reformed third round, but losing to Fish in the 4th round, maybe it was just mental fatigue, maybe it was just tilting, but that roster, we know they can take it to round 5. We know they can get a top 8 if they get all their cards in order, get that one lucky result. So I'll be rooting for them in the next main event, and hopefully they get top 8, just not beating us.
Yeah, I would love to see it, of course, but like, I think we now need to move on to the overperformers, and this might be a little bit mean, considering you are literally on the team, but I'm going to read 2 off right now. Espionage and Orion. You can't really say Orion overperformed, because they might have lost to Apex, you never know, but one of the main ones I want to talk about is Espionage. What would you think?
I would say we didn't get unlucky, or we didn't get lucky. We versus Reformed first round, get a forfeit against TKO, but we know that we would have beaten them on the day. Losing to Apex, I feel like as a player on the team with our players, we should have at least taken that to game 5, at least have a crack at beating them. But then getting, I feel like what we deserve in versing Unity, and then getting revenge on Bro, I feel like that isn't unjust. But Orion had the easiest run through to make top 8. Versing Bro, that they took to game 5, and they even swept in top 16, getting swept by Astronic, and then beating Lupo, Rosso, Ice, and getting a forfeit against Apex. That really is getting all the luck that you can in this main event, and they really did take it, and they really did run with it.
As much as we would like to say it's luck, and we can chalk it up to that a bit, but they can only beat the teams that are in front of them, and they didn't do that in the first 2 rounds. I think they could have got through still if they did beat Bro and Astronic, but at the same time, I don't think they should be even in the 0-3 or 0-2 matches. They should never be there.
No way.
I feel really bad for Lupo Rosso, who definitely shouldn't be last. They have a player, Blade and Crisp, ridiculously good players. Very, very good 100%. Players. Should never be in that situation.
Blade not being able to play in this main event really did hurt them. Having to play with Fatal was a big knock to them, and you can see that only winning 2 matches out of the 3, getting swept by Pirates, losing to Ice, which I expect no one to lose to Ice, and also losing to Orion, but Orion do have Tristan, and they do have Declan. And I'm going to say it now, Declan, come end of the season, will be one of the most dangerous players with the ball. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. Declan had so many offers during the off-season, but he was very, very loyal and everything, and he was perfect. But very, very quickly, we are just going to touch on the placements. So, of course, May Contain Nuts 1, Pirates 2nd, Millennial Times Gaming 3rd with Reformed, MTG, White Rabbit, Orion, and ATK rounding up the top 8. I think that's all we need to really go down. But my question to you, will it be Pirates versus May Contain Nuts all season?
I don't think so. I feel like it's going to be May Contain Nuts 90% or 95% always in the final. But then on that extra final spot, Pirates, MTG, Reformed, White Rabbit Gaming, ATK, even, hell, fuck it, toss Espionage in there if we have a fucking pop-off day. But the main 3, or the main 4, will be Orlando Pirates, MTG, Reformed, and White Rabbit looking to get that final spot. And whichever team is playing better on the day will get that final spot. So,
do you think, here's a bit of a question for you, do you think there will be a regional where May Contain Nuts do not feature in the grand final?
I'm going to go bold. I feel like they won't feature in the final. Just they might have something come up where David, to die for, he's going to be writing exams soon. They're going to have to use their sub, Risen Eclipse. And yes, Risen Eclipse is a good player, but he is not to die for standard. He is not Snowy standard. He is not Darth standard. And if you take any of those starting 3 out of that roster, that team becomes very beatable very quickly. So you just need one of those days, or you just need a good day where they aren't playing well or they don't have their main roster, and it can switch just like that.
Yeah, it could switch very, very quickly. I think we've absolutely bossed that part of the podcast. Went through it like absolute top G's.
Yeah,
So
100%.
there is a massive, massive, massive rumour that has been circulating that Greybeard even tweeted about. I don't know if you saw it, but
the EU team coming to SSA.
What are your opinions on this?
I feel like that would be great for the scene. Yes, there may be a new big dog in town, like stealing wins, but at the end of the day, we can't get better if we don't have better teams or verse better teams, if that makes sense. Like, if you saw Orlando Pirates Bravado versing teams in America to die for, beating the likes of Jorios, beating the likes of Arsenal, even in ranked, that has done wonders for his gameplay, that has done wonders for all the players, and we just need more experience, more playtime against better teams, and we will grow with the game.
So, I've had the pleasure of meeting these people that might potentially be moving to SA. They are waiting until after their GCSEs. They are all 15.
Okay.
So, it could not be on the cards, but the way I see it is it's not financially viable. As much as it will help the scene, they could win every regional, but they don't see that money until the end of the split.
100%.
And unless they have an org paying for everything, they are not going to be able to get through.
Even now, if you're not winning the tournaments, you're not going to be able to live off of prize pools. Yes, second place you might make 15 or 20,000 rand, but with rent, if you're living alone, you got to pay for rent, you got to pay for groceries, you got to pay for fuel money, you got to have spending money, you got to go out. It's just not viable at the moment to try and live off of RLCS money if you aren't coming first place.
Of course, we've also had the bump in prize pool with APAC getting put together, and then they're taking us taking some of their prize pool, and now we went from 15k to 20k, 2,000 US dollars. That is not enough to get by. You can make $6,000 in the space of 2 months. Yes, that's fine, but if you're on an org, they'll take a percent. Of course, they'll give you a wage, but it may equal around the same. So I don't really see it being viable for this EU team.
Nope. Even 5th to 8th, you'll be making around 5,000 rand per person after tax. That's like, I know that a lot of people who are of age have jobs. Like, I will work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., come home, play 2 hours or 3 hours of scrims, and do that every single day, just so I can try and get this extra money, try and get better. But it's really not viable at the moment. I feel like if we do show up at the next Worlds, we might be able to get a $30,000 prize pool or even more. And it's just, this is our second season. We can't really complain. We've got cash, we've got the backing. But being the only region to not even have a stream for RLCS bewilders me. It is insane that we aren't getting the same love as some other regions.
Of course, they're gonna justify this by saying we're not a full member of RLCS. We are here to make up the numbers. We are here to make it a global esport. But to make it a global esport, you have to show us love. They have done that with the prize pool, but the stream is probably the most simple thing.
Yeah.
The money, I know it's not an issue to Psyonix, Epic Games, but the stream, in my opinion, is probably the most simple thing. And it is just, it bewilders me. It bewilders me.
And with, what is it, APAC coming in with us at the same time last season with Mina getting major spots, APAC getting major spots, and then SSA not even getting a stream. That's insane.
Okay, so I've heard multiple sides of the stories on this. I heard that SSA were going to get major spots. They were upping it to 24. I heard this the entire off-season from multiple big figures that had ties with Psyonix. I'm not going to say who, but I heard it the entire off-season. But it seems at the last second that they pulled the plug. And I would like to know why they pulled the plug, or if it was never on the cards. Of course, I would like to know both sides. But it is really sad to see SSA get no love, but we can't do anything. All we can do is go on the field and
play. Yeah,
play.
we gotta prove to Psylonix that we deserve even another shot next season. Deserve a stream. Deserve major spots. Because I feel like before that new APAC team came in, we are better than APAC.
Yeah.
Our super team was better than APAC.
Yeah, but before that, Cammy, Virtuoso, what is it? Realized 10 how? One of those.
Yeah.
Before they came in, I think May Contain Nuts could beat APAC. But, of course, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we think. We just have to prove it at wildcard. And that is all I plea. Please, if you get to go to wildcard, play your heart out, grind, do 100%. Scrims, do whatever you can. Just improve. That's all I ask of you. But, like, unless you've got something else, Ollie, to talk about, I'd be completely fine wrapping it up there. I think we've done amazing.
100%.
Alright, boys. Well, thank you so much for listening or watching. Depends if you wanted to look at us talk the entire time. Ollie laughed behind his hands whilst I threw shade at someone else.
100%.
Well, yeah. Cheers, boys.
Thank you, guys.